A giant cookie cake with delicious, fluffy, creamy filling.
Let's see what's cooking. Let's get the facts. Let's see what's cooking. It's time for yoyomax12.
Hello everyone, look what I found when I was shopping at my local grocery store. They have a houseware section and I found these giant cookie silicone molds. Now I had seen a couple of people that I watch on YouTube make these giant cookie cakes and I really wanted to give this a try myself. So I bought the mold. I think it was about $12, $13 at the grocery store. I've also seen them online, so you might have to poke around a little bit, maybe check out Amazon or eBay to find them yourself. I decided to use my very favorite chocolate cake recipe for this mold. That's 1/2 cup of quick cooking oats, a teaspoon of baking soda, and you're going to add to that 1.5 cups of boiling water. And then you kind of set that aside after you give it a stir. This chocolate cake recipe has been in my family forever, and my mom's been making it for me since I was a small child. Now to that, you're going to add in 6 tablespoons of shortening. Now this shortening is yellow because it's a golden Crisco shortening, and it's supposed to look like butter. It just tastes like regular shortening. However, what I do is I add it to that hot oat and water mixture, and it just allows that shortening to melt a little bit. So put the shortening in there and just put it aside until it's cooled down quite a bit. Then in a large bowl, place 1.5 cups of brown sugar. Then you're going to pour in that slightly cooled oat mixture and then add in 2 eggs. You want to make sure that oat mixture is cool enough so you don't cook the eggs when you put them in. I also added in a teaspoon of baking powder and a dash of salt. And then you just stir that together until it's combined. Then add in 1 cup of all-purpose flour as well as 1/2 cup of unsweetened cocoa powder. Blend that all together until well combined and you don't see any more dry flour in the mixture. Then grease your silicone molds very well. I sprayed mine with cooking spray, and then divide the cake batter equally between the 2 molds. Then you're going to put them on something else like a cookie sheet, just because it's easier to move them into the oven and remove them from the oven. And you're going to bake them at 350 degrees until when you stick a toothpick in the center, it comes out with just a few moist crumbs. That's about 20-25 minutes or so. Allow them to cool for about 10 minutes in the mold, and then turn them out onto a cooling rack to cool completely. Most of the details are still visible after baking, and I was pretty happy with that. Allow the cakes to cool completely before you add the frosting. This is the frosting recipe I'm using. In a medium-sized saucepan, place 1 cup of milk and add 4 tablespoons of all-purpose flour, whisking it in a little bit at a time, and then you're going to put the heat on to medium-high, and you're going to continue to whisk as it's cooking until you get a thick paste. And this may take 4 or 5 minutes to happen on medium-high heat. Once you get to that thick paste, remove it from the heat and allow it to cool to room temperature. And it's going to get quite clumpy looking, but that's okay. You're going to put it back in your mixing bowl and you're going to beat this on high for 4 minutes. And don't skimp on the time here because the beating is very important to this recipe for it to turn out well. Now in a separate bowl, you're going to place 1 cup of sugar and 1 cup of softened butter. Then you're going to beat this on high for 4 minutes and it'll become very, very pale and very light and very fluffy. After 4 minutes, take the sugar butter mixture and put it into the flour milk bowl, and then add your whisk attachment and beat this for about 4 minutes, and it'll get just unbelievably light and fluffy and will get kind of the texture of whipped cream. And then you're ready to add it to your cake, and I just put a whole bunch of it in between the 2 cookie halves, spread it out so that it was even. I was trying to make it look like an Oreo cookie, so I went around with a spatula afterwards and just kind of flattened it out because I wanted it to look like an actual Oreo cookie. And there it is. It really does look like an Oreo, except the markings are a little bit off. But pretty spectacular. I was really, really happy with the results. I think the cake looked fantastic. This chocolate cake recipe is the best chocolate cake recipe you'll probably ever taste, and I am not kidding. This is the go-to recipe that my mom always used, and if we had a birthday cake and asked for chocolate cake, this is exactly what we received. Now that filling is a wonderful alternative to regular frosting. It is not super sweet. It is so creamy, so light, so fluffy, and you know what? It actually tastes a little like sweetened whipped cream, or even it tastes a little like the filling in a Twinkie or in a cupcake. So I hope you give these recipes a try, even if it's just for the chocolate cake or just for this great frosting, because I know some of you may not be able to locate these fancy molds. Thanks for watching. If this is your first visit to yoyomax12, I do hope that you take the time to subscribe. I do sweet treats on Mondays and Fridays. I have a main course meal on Wednesdays, and I usually do an unboxing video along with my teenage son Max on Saturdays. If you want to subscribe, go ahead and click right on your screen, right below the cute kitty cat.